starting to at least develop a baseline of demand again. So I'm feeling quite positive about things, actually.
And is Singapore getting a lot of expats from the Middle East?
Yes, there's a lot of that happening. And I always have this saying that when Singapore when China gets sneezes, Singapore gets a cold, and so we're so tied to the economics of this region in so many ways. But it's one of the plus sides to all of that is if we see an upturn, it's a really good barometer for the region in the general terms. So
Yeah.
we always
Well,
experience the worst.
for your information, we've been present with Brunello and with Pinot Grigio for
Ah,
many years in Dubai duty free.
oh, okay.
And in fact, the Pinot Grigio by Cordoccia for a number of years was the best selling Pinot Grigio of Dubai duty free.
Oh, that's good to know. Yeah.
Yeah, and we've done good business with Brunello as well over the
Mhm.
years.
Mm.
So hopefully that's an opportunity.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Francesco, can I suggest that we do the PowerPoint for the first half of this recording, and so we encourage the people who are online to work through the six wines while you're showing the PowerPoint, and then
Yeah.
we can ask you questions about the vintages and so forth. Would that be okay for you?
Yes, of course. Let me
Perfect.
pull up the PowerPoint. Here we have it, and there we are.
Okay.
Yeah, ready when you are.
We're ready to go. Over to you.
Okay. Thank you for this opportunity to present Col d'Orcia. Col in Italian means hill, and Orcia is the name of the river that runs at the bottom of the estate. The boundary of the property, the boundary of the municipality of Montalcino towards the sea, towards the Mediterranean. And on our labels, we have the symbol you can see on the screen now, composed of two elements. The bottom part represents Montalcino, the mountain of oak trees. That's the origin of the name. And then second element, the hand pointing to the star, which is our interpretation of the quality. Quality for us is a continuous, relentless work of research and development to improve our quality. Now, the key word here in Montalcino and at Cordoccia is biodiversity, not because of some marketing program current, but really for historical reasons. 50% of the land of the municipality of Montalcino is still today covered with natural woodland. So plants, wildlife, all kinds of biodiversity historically and well established on the territory. And another indication of how healthy the environment and diverse environment is here is represented by the 106 natural truffle fields that we have in the municipality of Montalcino. One of them here at Cordoccia, just outside the cellar. And truffles are very delicate organisms, and they disappear quite rapidly in the presence of poison, of chemical poisoning of the land. Of course, we have a large number of olive trees, and we produce our own olive oil, and we produce honey. In fact, Montalcino is one of the largest producers of honey in Italy, and and then we have yearly crops. Oh, I didn't say if someone has questions, do interrupt me, and I'm happy to
Nothing
answer
that I've
questions.
seen so far. Maybe we'll leave the questions if they are to after the presentation. Francesco, I think it'd be easier.
Okay,
Yep.
okay. So yearly crops, spelt, but also barley for the production of beer, and wheat, of course, for our pasta. We can't do without pasta here in Italy, pasta and bread and all that. But we were instrumental in bringing back spelt into production. Spelt in Italian we call farro, the grain that the ancient Romans used to consume. So the estate is managed in the way organic farms have been managed for thousands of years, and until the introduction of chemical products in agriculture. So we have our own farm animals, we have orchards, we have fruit trees, fruit orchards, and the productions I mentioned before. So a diverse environment, a diverse kind of setting in which we grow our vines together with other crops. We belong to a larger territory called the Orchard Valley. The Orchard Valley, that you can see it here in this picture. No motorways, no power lines, no industrial settlements, but rather a very rural environment, very diverse number of crops in the different fields, as you can see by looking at the different colors of the in the picture, and because of all this, the Val d'Orcia is a natural park and also a World Heritage Site by UNESCO since the year 2004 for the beauty of the landscape. So we have arguably the most beautiful countryside in the world. And that obviously is an element that influences our perception of quality, our perception of making the best use of nature and everything that nature brings to us. For more than 30 years, I've been a supporter of the Slow Food and hence the Slow Wine organization. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's obviously, as the name says, it's in opposition to fast food, and it protects around the world the traditional productions of agricultural products. So from eggs and poultry, from cheese to vegetables, fruits, and the consequent recipes. So at Côte d'Orcia, we are proud to be slow, and we follow this movement. We have been following it for many, many years. Since the year 2022, we have added to our organic certification also the sustainable certification. It says sustainable winery on the logo here, but in fact it's sustainable all through the production. At Côte d'Orcia, we don't purchase grapes outside, we don't purchase wines, it's all our own grapes, our own vineyards, and the supply chain is well, me speaking to you, and from the decision of where to plant a vineyard to shipping the bottle once it has finished its aging in the cellar. Everything is done in-house and controlled directly by us. So in terms of the organic, sustainable aspects, Côte d'Orcia now has the two certifications, the organic certification and the sustainable certification, plus the snail, as I was saying. We've been going through various stages. The first stage was obviously organic, so abandoning all chemical products and all agricultural chemicals. The second step was the introduction of biodynamics and the management of the vineyard. So how to fertilize our fields and our crops in a natural way, and making sure the soil is really lively and conducive to feeding the plant as much as needed for the production. And then 4 years ago, we introduced the sustainable aspect. So measuring our carbon footprint, our water footprint, the biodiversity of the air and the soil, and so on. And now we have, since last year, entered the yet another stage, which is the future. If you haven't heard about it yet, you will soon, because it's going to be very much in the European Union objectives, the regenerative agriculture. So recovering soils, areas that have been affected by the use of chemical products, have been ruined by the use of chemical products, regenerating them and bringing them back in the fold of organic and biodynamic and sustainable practices. So that's quite exciting, and the larger project that we're doing in this respect is to recreate habitat for the bird population, especially insect-eating birds that help us keep the environment, the vineyard, healthy and clean. We are pioneers in research and development. We go back to the hand pointed to the star of our symbol. A lot of research and development in all the aspects of farming the Sangiovese grape in the southern slopes of Montalcino. So clonal selection, density of planting, rootstocks, and a whole number of other research projects. We are an award-winning estate. We've over the years have received the top ratings by wine writers, both in Italy and international. And for instance, the Brunello di Montalcino by Collocia was the first Brunello di Montalcino to obtain the Best Red Wine of Italy award by the Tre Bicchieri, by the Gambero Rosso wine guide and organization. Also, I have the largest collection of old vintages of Brunello di Montalcino. We have sent some over the years to Singapore.
Yep.
You've had the chance to taste them at Vinitaly, I believe, and some of them. And so if there is a very special celebration, we are happy to ship over some special bottle to help celebrate the special occasion. So largest collection of old vintages of Brunello in the appellation. And our attitude towards the management of the vineyard is everything's done by hand under the concept that each single vine is an individual and requires personalized attention. So not only the harvest is manual, but also every other operation in the vineyards. Currently, we're doing the spring pruning. We are clearing the plants from the excessive branches that have sprouted over at the beginning of the season, and obviously all that is all done by hand as well. And we produce traditional wines. Now, when we go and we taste the wines, you will notice the freshness, the vibrancy, the liveliness of our wines. The important aspect for us is the drinkability and the ageability. So wines that have come from grapes that have the characteristic of noticeable level of acidity are very suitable for pairing with food. They stand very well on the dinner table, accompanying food, and by the same parameter, we ensure the ageability, the fact that the wines can go on and on for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, giving quite unique tasting experience when you open an old bottle. So traditional methods of production for traditional wines, traditional style wines. And all this thanks to the work, the passion, the dedication of more than 100 people that collaborate every day in the vineyard and in the cellar with us. Right, so you have a lovely tasting organized here with a number of vintages, and the first vintage is Brunello di Montalcino vintage 2020.
Francesco, if I could just show you the order that they're tasting, maybe there's a little confusion. I'll put it in the chat. We're starting with the Nastagio 18, and then
right?
we're doing the Brunello 10 and then the Brunello 20. Those are the first three wines. So maybe we can talk a little bit
Okay.
about that and then get on to the Poggio.
Okay. So the first wine, Vigna Nastagio, Brunello di Montalcino, vintage 2018. When there is the word Vigna written on a label, that's a legal term in Italy, and it corresponds to a single vineyard. So the single vineyard concept is that it's a limited area in space, and that all the grapes, 100% of the grapes of the wine that's designated as vineyard come from that very specific physical location. So what the French call cru.
If I could drop a question in there from one of the people who are listening in but can't actually partake verbally. He had a question about the San Antimo vineyard. Let me see if I can find it. Um, Many raging. Oh, here we go. With many regions globally experiencing whole bunch and stem inclusion to bring freshness to warmer vintages, has there been a temptation or perhaps a secret trial in your cellar to look at stem inclusion for Sangiovese from the warmer San Angelo Hill?
So there's a question about whole bunches
Yeah, he's
with
talking
yeah.
specifically about the San Angelo Sangiovese, and whether being a warmer climate, a warmer exposure, are you changing your approach to winemaking to account for that in that particular
Yes,
vineyard?
yes, yes, of course. We are uh, reacting, well, rather than reacting, studying with great attention and in detail the evolution of the plants, the evolution of the vines, as a consequence of the climatic change.
Mm.
So that's one aspect that we have to deal with, and there we take
I'm
what I
actually
call
struggling.
sorry.
That's okay. Somebody's taken off their mute. Please carry on. Thank you.
And so the attitude there is an attitude of Darwinian, I would define it. In other words, we need to be curious about how the plants evolve in
Mm.
with the climatic change, and learn to accompany them in that path.
There's a
In terms
very
of
There's an interesting opinion coming out from Margaret River in Western Australia. I was there earlier this week for something, and the opinion from some of the winemakers there are, notwithstanding climate change, the vines themselves are adapting. That's
yes.
admittedly that's a maritime experience, which is not something that applies to, of course, all over the world. But they're seeing the vines actually adapting and the fruit adapting accordingly, which is quite encouraging.
Very much so, very much so. That's exactly what I meant, and I can give you, for instance, the example of one measurement we have done, and we continue doing with the University of Florence, of the increased retention or accumulation, rather, of calcium by the vines. The explanation is that the vines are building stronger cellular walls in the skins of the grapes to have more thicker skins that can withstand better the heat waves and the exposure to direct exposure to sunlight.
Right.
And now, insofar as whole clusters is concerned, no, we destem everything. We make the harvest decision based on the protection of the acidity, which is the main characteristic of Sangiovese grape, as I was mentioning before.
Yep.
And so we will rather pick a little bit earlier, and reduce the extraction, reduce the amount of pump overs and mechanics conducive to extract a lot from the skins,
Right.
and really limit the extraction to what's required for an elegant and um, elegant wine. And whole clusters are not in our view, a useful solution for the current situation here in Montalcino.
Right.
But we're working on many aspects of the vineyard management in order to reduce or eliminate as much as possible the dehydration that takes place because of the very strong heat waves we see in the summer. And so we're planting bush vines now. The last 3 patches of vineyard that I planted not don't have wires holding up the canopy, but it's rather freestanding plants, each vine. And I plant against the slope as to capture all the water that falls and not allow it to drain away from the vineyard. Those are 2 examples of many different
Approaches.
projects, prunings in the middle of summer. We are distributing yesterday and today in a couple of vineyards. We are distributing hay from our yearly crops on the row of the plants, where we had to intervene with mechanical weed removal, and in order not to leave the soil bare and exposed to the sun, we're covering it manually with hay.
Right.
This is something we already started doing last year, and we actually saw some very interesting results, some very noticeable results in the vineyard with this practice, and compared with the testimony, we call it, the other the same vineyard, but without this practice.
Without the practice. What makes tonight particularly exciting for me is to be able to taste this 2010 against the 2020.
Yes.
If I look at vintage analysis of Brunello di Montalcino, there's quite a lot of writing that draws parallels between 10 and 20, which I'm super encouraged about, because in my experience, 2010 Montalcino, and especially yours, has been one of my defining vintages for enjoying Brunello. And I'm struck tonight by a seeming similarity in the fruit and the balance of these 2 vintages. But what really blows me away is how energetic and fresh your 2010 is looking today. There's a lot of 2010s in the surrounding producers of your area that are not showing this level of freshness and agility and dynamism in the glass. Many of them are looking a little depressed now, a little flatter. I'm really enjoying this glass of the 2010 tonight.
Well, you see, that's the fascinating aspect of having so many producers in Montalcino. And some of them will bottle their wines with a view to the fact that, as you probably know, 9 out of 10 bottles that are shipped from the cellars are consumed within the 12 months for the shipment. And so they tend to ship wines that are already ready to drink, so to speak.
Yeah.
At Codorcia, we take a different view. We know that sometimes our younger vineyard, our younger vintage, the one that just released, may need for the bottle to be opened in advance and decanted and allowed to breathe as much as possible. And in fact, the same bottle opened today will yield a better taste experience tomorrow.
Mm.
But that gives us the kind of wine we want in terms of pairing with food, as I was saying before, and in terms of longevity.
Yeah.
Because we believe that the most important intrinsic value of Brunello is the aging capacity, and
Mm.
so we tend to favor that aspect.
Yeah. I
Now,
think
to
that
2020, it's interesting. Well, I don't have it in front of me, but yesterday, a Canadian journalist published a comment on Brunello 2020 because it's been released as we speak in Toronto by
Mhm.
the Ontario Liquor Board, and he gave it 95 points and very very complimentary comments on this fairly young Brunello
Yeah, I
2020.
mean, what's striking tonight from it is, of course, the balsamic, which you kind of always look for in your Brunello. But there's a roundness and a softness. There's a sense of evolution in the wine that if I was tasting this blind, I would lean towards 2016 rather than 2020. It's showing those beautiful elements, those classic elements of Col Dolce at a really early stage. I'm looking at our volumes. I'm so glad to see that Lou has bought a lot of this vintage because I'm really having a bit of a bromance with it. I think it's spectacular.
Thank you, thank you.
And the price point, if one considers Brunello di Montalcino in general terms, the price point of this in Singapore at $70 is incredibly good value for money compared to many others that are comfortably in the triple digit brackets.
Right. Yeah, yeah.
There was a
So the
question.
comparison between the 2020 and 2010,
Yeah.
and then the Nastagio, which is a different taste experience because high density of planting, the very very heavy clay soil, all contribute to Brunello Montalcino with a greater intensity and a
Mm.
greater volume on the palate, especially in
Is
the middle of the palate.
is there any significant altitude difference in the Nastagio vineyard compared to the general?
No, in fact, the Nastagio vineyard is not particularly high up on the hill.
Okay.
It's in fact from a fairly young soil from a geological point of view. It's
Mm.
really from an alluvial terrace of the last glaciation of the Orcha River basin.
Yeah.
So it's just around 200 meters over sea level. No, but high density of planting, clonal selection of the grapes, all have delivered to us a grapes that make up for a Brunello with a lot of intensity and a lot of volume in the center of the palate.
Mhm. On this point, maybe it's a good time for me to ask this other question. When tasting your wines alongside your immediate neighbors, like Il Poggione or Aggiano, there's a striking difference in fruit architecture. While they tend to present a very dark, masculine, plummy profile, Coldorcio consistently retains a gorgeous, high-toned red cherry vibrancy. Is this beautiful red fruited elegance primarily driven by the unique terroir and microclimates of your river-facing slopes, or is it a direct result of specific loose-bunched Sangiovese clones you pioneered with the University of Florence?
It's more to do with the clones, and it has even more so to do with the choice of harvest, of the date of harvest.
Right.
These days we have reached a point in order to preserve this brightness, this freshness that's mentioned in the question there, limiting the amount of extraction and keeping the wine separated from the skins
Mhm.
for a long period of the vinification.
Mhm.
So we use délestage, but we use very long délestage, even days of délestage, and because we adopt techniques that allow us to extract from the skins only what's beneficial to the end product, to the finished wine, rather than have excessive extraction, excessive elements, which may be a little bit balsamic, as you mentioned before, precisely because in order to preserve the acidity, we have to pick earlier than other. Codorcia has a reputation of being the first one to start the harvest in Montalcino, and the first one to finish. And most producers here on the southern slope of Montalcino are always out on the outlook of when Codorcia starts, and then they know they will start a week later or 10 days later or something.
That's very interesting. I think that I often mull, or not often, but I sometimes think that it would be really interesting from a technical point of view to differentiate by date when key producers are actually harvesting, rather than saying, okay, 2010 is fantastic, and just declaring it a generally fantastic harvest. Because when I look at difficult harvests and I see fantastic wines in very difficult harvests, that means the viticulturalist and the winemaker have made decisions that are different from the rest of the pack in order to produce a really well-made wine. And the older I get and the more cynical I become about these things, I actually choose the 17s or the 13s or the 11s, because if they're particularly well made in those hard years, that's a sign of insight and knowledge about the terroir and how to get the very best out of grapes. I think it's not enough just to say that a vintage is either good, bad, or indifferent from a certain vintage. It really comes down to the winemaker and the viticulturalist.
Yes, and the collaboration between the two, absolutely.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Shall we move on to the Poggio Ventos?
So you have two vintages of Poggio Vento, the very renowned 16 and
12 and 16.
And the 2012.
Yeah.
Now both of them are Poggio al Vento, so the name Poggio al Vento is the name of the vineyard. It translates into windy heights. It's a vineyard in the heart of the estate, high up on the hill, and here we have a very different soil to what we've been tasting with the Nastagio. The Poggio Vento soil is very ancient from a geological point of view, many millions of years, and it's in fact a former seabed. It was under seawater in the old geological times. This is a vineyard that my father planted in 1974, just arrived here in Montalcino, and we've been expanding that area. It now covers approximately 7 hectares, but we choose only the best grapes from this vineyard for the production of the Brunello di Montalcino Riserva with the Poggio Vento label. Poggio Vento label is a very traditional wine, a wine that, as a taste experience, is played more on the persistence on the palate, on the long aftertaste, rather than the volume in the mouth that I was mentioning with Nastagio. So a little bit subdued at the entrance on the palate, and not so imposing in the passage on the tongue. But then when you swallow it, the long aftertaste, the persistence are the elements that make it noticeable. So it's very traditional in style. Poggio Vento has seen the taste of wine writers and commentaries from wine lovers around the world change over time. This label has never changed, and the fact that now we're going back to more classic style Brunellos pleases us no end, because there we have Poggio Vento unchanged and very much playing a leading role in this respect.
So it's a kind of a defining benchmark of classic style Brunello. It's never changed from that. Yeah. Of course,
That's what some winemakers in Montalcino say. Yes.
right. That 2006 that we've got, guys, that's jar number 4, is just blows me away in terms of its weightiness, its sense of presence, its gravitas. But again, Francesco, there's this energy in the wine that's even after this length of time is still so very clearly there. I think the oldest I ever drank with you at the winery was in the 90s. You were very generous one day to tolerate us for quite a lengthy tasting, and you generously opened some of the 90s. And I remember that day how vibrant and this, I guess, this stamp, this kind of philosophy of called Ocho stems a long way back in terms of your vintages and the characteristics of them.
Yes, well, more and more the biodynamic aspect of the management of the vineyard takes hold. It's the holistic approach by which the role for the winemaker, the role for the wine producer is to harness this energy, this lively energy, this biodynamic energy, and put it in the bottle, and for you to find it in the glass when you open the bottle and pour it. That's our purpose these days.
It's interesting comparing 6 and 12 tonight. I know that 2012 is not a vintage in Montalcino that's particularly chased or pursued as a premium vintage, but it's super interesting tasting the 06 next to the 12 tonight because the way 06 is shining is just unbelievable, really extraordinarily well tonight. I don't know if you follow the biodynamic calendar. Usually I wait until the end of a tasting before I reference it. But for those of us in Singapore, tonight is a particularly good, it's a fruit day for tasting wine and particularly good from 6 o'clock tonight. So we're in the golden zone for tasting your wines from a biodynamic point of view.
Well, thank you for choosing this very special date.
Yeah, well, I've stopped trying to work around them because it changes my bias on what I'm tasting. So we just got lucky. The reason why I fell in love with the attitude of drinking biodynamic wines on biodynamic days is a couple of years ago, I did a series of Super Tuscan dinners. And it was so popular that I had to do it 6 times, 6 weeks in a row. So it was every Thursday for 6 weeks. Same wine, same food, same restaurant, same everything. And the votes from the people at those dinners and how those wines tasted differently every single time was phenomenal. And so that's when I became a serious follower of the biodynamic calendar from a tasting point of view.
Wonderful, yeah.
Maybe you can share with us a little bit about 2016, which is, of course, a shining vintage for Tuscany in general, and particularly for Poggio Vento.
Yes, well, very balanced. We were lucky enough not to have too severe phenomena on that year, on that vintage. So a better balanced with good structure, good power in that vintage. In 2012, we bottled Poggio Vento only in the best vintages, only the vintages that we know have the full aging potential of going endlessly or in event until the cork lasts. And so 2012 is a year that has convinced us it has that characteristic. and I think it has a unique elegance, slenderness, really making it very, very, very enjoyable, very. Uh, as I said, the word I prefer to use here is slender. So not imposing, but rather,
Ah,
a, a, a beautiful. Uh,
a more of a charming kind of presence, possibly would be.
yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Ballerina comes to mind
yeah, yeah.
as a comparison.
I've got to say though, the 6 for me against the 12, the 6 is just blindingly good tonight. It's raising the limits. And then finally, number 6, the Poggio Vento 2016, which
Yeah.
is one of your shining glories. And I'm so pleased to see again that Luigi has bought a lot of it for us. So hopefully we will be drinking it for a while. Do you see any parallels between 16 and 10 from a vintage point of view?
Yes, yes. I think they are well structured, good level of concentration and power on the palate. Yeah,
Mhm. Okay.
I think
Then there's
they.
another question. With Caldoccio being the organic leader in the region, have you noticed organic farming has naturally helped lower pH levels and preserve acidity during the warmer seasons, which is increasingly becoming more common?
Yes, well, the pH level is very much influenced by the yield. So it's a question of being quite strict about the amount of grapes you ask from the plant, and um, so we try to obtain the result with 335 under 3.4 pH by that method by controlling the amount of grapes, the yield and the date of picking.
Mhm. There's another final question from somebody. Your estate sits right on the front line of the Orcho riverbed, catching the marine winds before they head inland toward Lizini or up the ridge towards Il Porgione. In a hot, dry year like 12 or 20, does that direct proximity to the flowing water and the river canyon wind give you your vines a distinct nighttime cooling advantage?
Well, I wish it did. No, well, just let me dispel just the Codorcia extends the property all the way up to the village of Sant'Angelo in Colle. So we are exactly the same as Poggione. We border the river on the lower side of the property, but we go all the way up to the village, 400 meters over sea level. So in that respect, we don't have a different climatic condition or temperature excursion compared
Right.
with Poggione, and Lisini has some vineyards that get shade in the afternoon earlier than us, but that's the only difference. Now, the heat waves we're witnessing with the climatic change are very dramatic, precisely because there's no temperature excursion or very limited. The heat goes on all through the night. The plants don't have a chance to recover
Mhm.
from the heat during the day. The temperature doesn't drop below 30, not even at nighttime, not even early hours of the morning.
Right.
Um, so no, we don't have better conditions than our neighbors.
Are there any other questions from the group? You can throw it in the chat or ask, of course, yourselves before we say grazie mille to Francesco. It's almost lunchtime in Tuscany, so I don't want to
It
upset
is.
him too much.
That's okay.
Francesco,
That's okay.
thank you so very much for joining us today. It's such a pleasure to see you again. And hopefully I'll see you in Vinitalia next year for sure. We haven't been
Yes,
for a year or two.
good, yes.
So we'll come and visit. And so please
Yes,
stay
and
well.
any of the participants here, if they're coming to Italy, spend for some holiday, we're open all year round. We love to receive visitors, and
That's wonderful.
we
So
we can talk
guys,
more about the different aspects.
that's great. Just guys, email me and I'll hook you up with Nicola, and we can make a cellar. I have to tell you that drinking wine at Coldoccio in the cellar is one of the highlights of my times in Italy. It's absolutely wonderful. And so I can only recommend it to everybody. So thank you so much, everybody, for coming tonight. I will be sending you in about an hour after I've drunk the rest of my Poggio Vento. I will send you the price list for the wines we tasted tonight, and it's 10% off for everybody who orders this weekend. And thank you again, and we'll see you in
Thank you,
Italy
Robert.
very
Thank
soon,
you.
Francesco.
All
Grazie
the best.
mille. Ciao a
Bye
tutti.
bye.
Bye.
Ciao, ciao.